time. Not too bad so far. Okay, so order of business. I'm in between carrying on with World Eaters or jumping into Emperor's Children. My wife has been asking for quite a while when I'm going to start doing Emperor's Children, so I think I'm going to take a break from do the Demon Prince. This was as far as we got in the kind of last stream, and oh, it's a little bright. So I think what we'll do is we'll come in and I'll just throw on something for Emperor's Children for this stream. So this is going to be a bit of a fact find for you and for I. So I haven't painted one of these before, hoping that it's going to be relatively quick. Say quick, doesn't need to be too bad. Try to do it in a few sub-assemblies. So shoulders, backpack, head, to kind of start it off. I've left the pauldrons off separately, so that's going to be done as a bit of a separate piece. Again, not really set on colour, not really set on placement for where everything's going to go. So yeah, we're going to go through this together. Subject to how quickly I can get through this, might be able to crack out the airbrush and just do a bit of brush work. Yeah, so we'll see how this evolves. In terms of colours, I've got multiple options to go with. I think for a mid-tone, I might go with magenta pink. Seems quintessentially Emperor's Children. So I'll stick with that and we'll see what happens. So I hope everyone is well. So not every part of this is going to be, holy cow, that's pink. So not every part of this is going to be pink. The other bits I'm going to do is black. But then in terms of what black I do, that's to be yet to be decided. But we'll go from there. In terms of shade and undertones, I'm a bit torn between going with either Drucci Violet or Sigvald Burgundy. I don't know if the Sigvald is going to be enough of a contrast, so I might use Drucci Violet just to drop the shadow colours in. So let's crack on with this then. As I said, I've never painted Emperor's Children. I don't know what this is going to look like. To be fair, the colour is quite intimidating because even on the brush I can see that's really, really pink. Oh god, that's pink. Wow. That is pinky pink. Really not used to. Wow, that's super pink. I may have overshot myself with this. Ooh, that makes me a little uncomfortable seeing how bright that is. Wow. Just bear it in mind for anyone who's watching this who hasn't seen any of my other videos, my colour scheme for airbrush children was ivory. So to have this as the mid-tone is a little daunting. This feels like a mistake. Mistake in terms of colour. I mean, I'm committed. I've brought 1,800 points of airbrush children, which is on my agenda for 2026. So I've committed to doing them. But obviously how I do them is really yet to be defined. Oh Lord, that's pink. That's so pink. If my wife watches this back, she's going to be howling. She's going to be absolutely creasing herself. This is uncomfortably bright. I don't know if this is translating very well, but this is such a saturated colour for me that that is daunting. Ooh. What has she done to me? Because the alternative, oh, I've got a couple of people joining, because the alternative to this is that I did something Horus Heresy themed and I went purple. But again, I've done, I don't want to say boring, but I've done normal for quite a while. And obviously this certainly isn't that. Evening to whoever's joined. Apologies, the normal order of things have been turned on the head. My usual planned chaos introductions are completely turned on the head for this stream. I am so far out of my comfort zone. Ooh, wow. My paint pot has not been that colour before. This is so pink. This is so pink. My plan was to do chest piece and one of the limbs fully in pink, and then possibly one of the hands on the opposite side. I think because the chest is so pink, I think the head is going to have to be black. Also, good Lord, I think I'll go pink this side, I think. What is nice, which I will say right off the bat, is having painted the Demon Prince for the best part of a month, being able to paint something this size is really very nice, because I'm actually making tangible progress that I can see. Again, for battle line units, I'm not too bothered about putting too much work in, as long as there's a coherent approach. Oh, Andy, I didn't see your message. from all the way over from Spain. I know you're normally UK based. Appreciate the compliments from the continent. I'm assuming time zones are not too different. Apologies if this isn't what you were expecting for today's stream. Trust me, no one is more shocked than I am. Good Lord. You know, when you start doing something, it feels like a mistake. I'm at that point. I am firmly at that point. Again, nothing is set in stone. I've not agreed with myself where any of the trim is going to be picked out or what colour necessarily it's going to be. I literally just saw this was one of the kind of most average mid-tone pinks in the collection. I thought, well, I'm just going to do this one. Oh, good Lord, that's so pink. Sorry, you are going to hear me say how shocked I am about this pink. Probably for the rest of this stream until I accept this is where we're at. I think the only point this is going to get better is when I airbrush. Do some airbrush work just to darken down some of these mid-tones. This is, what I will say is this is drying. I don't know how much you can, how clearly this is defined. This is drying pinker than it goes on. I'm just going to drop the exposure down just a little bit, just to see if that helps, because I'm conscious this is so bright. So there's no set process. Cheers, and I know they normally work in the end, but I'm a little dumbstruck at the minute with this colour. Yeah. So thankfully, because it's had a Corax white base coat, the colour goes on very nicely. So thank you to Colourforge for their primer. I had to pay for it, don't get excited. And I'm not sponsored yet. And how's the weather? Has it picked up? I know it's been a bit dire in Spain. Apologies, I'll just call the camera. Try not to make everyone feel sick. Oh, Christ. So, how did I manage to get paint on the gun? So, as we're at the minute, I think because I've done this leg pink, I think I'm going to do this hand pink just to offset the colour profile. This feels like one of those schemes that's going to put people off as soon as they see it. I mean, it's putting me off, and I'm the one painting it. So there's a couple of theories that I have about this particular scheme that has been rolling around in my head for a while. As I said on one of the videos, I always wanted Emperor's Children. So I've had some concepts in my head for a while. So it'll be nice to see if I can turn that into something. And also, you're gonna have to bear with me. It's raining. Sorry to hear that, and it's not one you want when you're away. But at least you're away. Right, so I think in terms of how much pink, that's as much as my brain can tolerate. If this got any pinker, I'm going to implode. So yeah, I think having one accent limb from the torso, I think having the torso pink might be the uniformity that I'm probably going to go with. So I think given that that's drying, nearly drying, I think I'll get the airbrush ready, and I'll start throwing on some shadow tones, and then I'll pop on some highlights. Now, in terms of what I can use for a highlight, I'm thinking of going with something like this. So this is Dust Rose. So hopefully this will knock down some of the saturation a little bit, not too much. And then contrasting that with the shadow colours from this angle. See if we can make it work. But again, all a tester. So, move that a shot. So, the backpack is, and apologies for the exposure. Again, nothing is set in stone for this. I left the backpack off just for ease of access. Normally I would stick them on, but I'm conscious that there's so many pieces back here, and having not done this before, I didn't want to potentially miss something and then it be obvious that I've missed it. I think I probably might just, do I just go black on the backpack? Because, we'll see. I'll go black on this one. And then we will move. So, for pauldron, I will throw this one on. This is probably the first, because I put this together earlier on. Obviously, I didn't want you to have to suffer me watching me build it on stream. Oh, evening, Frankie. Nice to see you back. What have you been up to? I feel this is the kind of colour that Frankie would go for. So yeah, this is the first normal, what I would consider normal Space Marine in over a decade. So it's quite nice. I will say that GW did a pretty good job at getting rid of the mould lines, because compared to the World Eaters, there was little to none. World Eaters have some of the worst mould lines that I've encountered. Frankie to go for blue. That sounds like an Ultramarines fan. Each to their own though. Each to their own. So for the rest of this, yeah, probably go black for the limbs and the hands, and then the inserts probably go grey. But we'll work through this tester. The question really is highlighting up. Whatever we're going to highlight up from obviously needs to accent well. Now the beauty, obviously anything going over white has a good chance that it's going to cover first time, and because this is black, this should be a one and done job. So I'm hoping for a speedy job here. There's a few bits and pieces there's a couple of parts I'm not familiar with. I'm not quite sure what they are. I'm too thin. Way too thin. No, me being my usual self, making stuff complicated. I've been having a good ponder about the base scheme, because whatever I throw on, obviously it needs to work with. So I either go very clean, or I go for weathering. Emperor's Children feel like they should be clean, so I'm not going to get into the discussion of weathering them for very much. But my base scheme, I'm going to do green marble or turquoise marble. Mainly because in terms of the kind of color triad, turquoise is kind of on the opposite scale, so it will contrast with it quite well. As it is at the minute, I'm yet to encounter another Emperor's Children player on here to hear of any woes. This is way more patchy than I thought it was going to be. Normally this is the Vallejo black. It normally covers really well, but this is... Then again, I am using a wet palette, so it could just be the wet palette is slightly too saturated, and hence it's pulling the pigment. Easily done. Now, in terms of base schemes, as I said, I was imagining this slightly knocked down, but I'm going to go for kind of this turquoise marble base. and the kicker being because it's marble, I've tried to throw in some UV cure resin just to give it the marble effect, which I think has come out all right. So hopefully when it's all stuck together, it will look the part. But yeah, this is oh, not a camera again. This is going through the phase that worries me because nothing is really done and everything looks a bit haphazard. Is that the... No, it's not that piece I was meant to paint. So all of these inner pieces are going to be grey. So I probably could have got away with doing this bit pink, but I'll do it black for this one. Again, all the belts seem like it seems like it should be brown, but I don't want to start introducing too many of the colours. Now I'm doing this, understand that this is going to be dry in a second. Well, it's probably already dry now, to be fair. I feel like going up from the black, it needs to have a hint of green in it, just to complement the base. Now the trim is obviously going to be gold, but in terms of what gold I'm using, it's going to be Turbo Dork. I've been doing a fair bit of research before I started doing this, just to make sure that it was the right one. And everything that I've seen tells me that it will be. But obviously what I've seen and what I get may be two separate things. Right, so before I do any more of this, I'm going to crack the airbrush out. I'm going to start throwing on some shadow tones. Now, I'm not sure how loud the compressor is going to be for the stream. If it's quite loud, can you just let me know, please? Oh, and apologies because I'm about to have to crack out my handy dandy cardboard screen. Now, I've had this for a while, so just bear with me. Trust me, it works. So yeah, general expectations is shadow tones are going to be shot up from here. Right, so let me kick on the airbrush, hoping that you can't hear that. I'm seeing how these have dried. I was still a little torn I don't know if Drucci is going to be too dark. Sigvold may be better, but then I'm concerned that it's just going to pull up and not really do anything. So I'll try Drucci, and we'll go from there. So just excuse me for a second whilst I get this ready. Right. Again, apologies, you may want to turn the TV down, or your phones. So I'm not sure how. Yeah, we are going. So let's see how this goes. Right, I feel that's done the square root of sod all. It has tinted it. It has made it darker, but it's not distinct enough that I would be committed that that is sufficient. So I may be switching to plan B, and I will have to go for a normal paint. Which is fine. It's one of those things in the process. In terms of colours, I've already knew which my backup was going to be. So I'm going to go with violet red. Generally speaking, I will always use a flow improver. Always recommend that before you shoot anything through the airbrush, always pop it in. Doesn't have to be flow improver. You can use airbrush thinner, works absolutely fine. Just bear in mind ratios. Obviously don't go too thin because obviously it'll be too watery. But equally, if you try and shoot straight paint through the airbrush, it's going to clog it up. And obviously that's a whole different discussion. Oh, I just caught the camera. So we'll just mix up this shadow tone. I don't need a lot, but obviously it just needs to be enough. So we just mix this through. So it's a lot darker. Hopefully it will be a lot more saturated. In terms of profile for this one, clear the water out. There we go, much darker. Much darker. So oh, that's much darker, yeah. Yeah, much darker. You can just see the difference in that saturation. I'll take that. I'll pop a bit at the back of the head. It's fine. So yeah, that's better. It's just toned it down just a little bit. And now it's going to be a bit of the opposite. So a bit of the opposite. So pauldron for this arm is going to be kind of facing upwards from here. So if I just bring that mid-tone in just so there's a bit of a gradient. And I'll do the opposite thing from the other side and just blow the airbrush out. Apologies for the back and forth. So I suppose I've not actually engaged with other people that use airbrushes. Obviously, I know enough people out there obviously do use airbrushes, but yeah, I think they're such an invaluable tool to get in, just colour down quickly. It's so much easier. Right, I'm a little torn to be honest, because I'm a bit concerned that this rose red is going to be a bit too much of a pastel colour. I mean, it is a pastel colour, it's going to be a highlight colour. But is it going to be too much? We'll give it a go. If it goes wrong, in terms of saturation, I know it will be able to get it back. But obviously undoing any work that you have to do is a little frustrating. And one of the other elements as well with airbrushes is just the maintenance. Just keeping them clean, having to obviously swap bits and pieces out between the colours can be a little frustrating. But, you know, will it be the same as the skin tone? No, it won't. The skin tone that I had in my mind is going to be kind of an off pale white with kind of this lilac lilac tone in it, just because, yeah, I didn't want to go with anything too bright, because obviously the armour itself is already quite saturated. So to go for a matching skin tone, I thought might be a bit samey. And I think any of the kind of the artwork from GW anyway generally depicts Emperor's Children. Right, here we go. Generally depicts Emperor's Children as being a bit twisted. So, yeah, anyway, right. Let's see what happens when we do this. Ooh, I quite like that. Well, I feel a little better given the saturation jump, that it's not going to be as scary as I thought. I think possibly the shadow tone is a little deep. Possibly a little bright. It's possibly a little bright, but it's something that can probably work on. Yeah, so what I'll do from here is I'll probably use a mid-tone highlight just to bridge the colours between obviously what is dark from what's light. I'm going to need to have a think about what I'm going to do for the black, because that's obviously going to be its own. That's going to be its own challenge, but it is nice that go. It's a bit of a 50-50. I think for the other pauldron, I'm probably just going to do it black. I don't necessarily want to do them both pink. So, yeah, I think I will leave the pink as it is. I think if I can stop messing and just work on the highlights, I should be able to get through this pretty quickly, which gives me obviously capacity to deal with the other parts. But you're on the same journey as I am, because you're literally finding it out as I am. And so I try to be good with airbrush cleaning. Considering how much they cost, yeah. Oh, we're in the presence of greatness tables here. Everyone say hi. If you haven't already, check out Table is Painting. He streams on the daily. He has much more regular content than I do. And you can usually catch him at pretty consistent times, which is always a bonus. So I'm going to just drop this screen away. So yeah, considering that was probably what, 5 minutes just to do all the pink. Yeah, don't think that's too bad. It obviously just leaves me to focus on the black pieces and the arms. That's left, obviously, then the little trim details. I'm a little annoyed because the instructions from TurboDork literally tell you to take the lid off and mix the paint yourself, which feels a little ropey. It doesn't feel you should have to. More content, not better. Oh, that's you say that's subjective. That's subjective. I mean, your stuff table is way more kind of saturated in colours, and it obviously it's a lot more catching on the eye. and you know, it works. I mean, obviously, I know you're doing a range of things. I think the last thing I saw you paint was, oh god, it's a Tyrannid model. That's rather clever. I think your stuff is, I think your stuff is good. It's very, it strikes me as a very, an ode to cell shading, which is a style that I love. Anyone in the stream who isn't familiar with cell shading, have a look, because it's such a captivating art style. It is, yeah. If I was confident enough to do that way, then I certainly would. So in terms of highlighting, again, I'm not going to do heavy metal paint scheme. I'm not going to edge highlight everything, but I will certainly edge highlight what I think I need to. And to be fair, anything coming off of doing World Eaters is going to be a privilege. Tell me about airbrushing. What do you want to know? The do's, the don'ts. It's dangerous, because once you start airbrushing, it is. I personally thought it was a bit of a revelation, to be honest. I started airbrushing probably about a year ago. Yeah, probably about a year ago, and it's been so helpful. Cleaning the brush is an absolute chore. I say it's an absolute chore. It depends. So this Steenbeck, aside from obviously access is pretty easy into here, having the open nozzle really helps, because anytime you can see it getting gunked up, it's fine, but all it's a case of doing is just unscrewing the back, and then there's about 5 components that you just need to take apart just to clean. And really, it's this piece here is a long pin that runs all the way through, and it's just giving that a bit of a wipe. It doesn't have to be done often, but my OCD pushes me to try and keep it clean, because I've had airbrushes that have clogged up, and it is a bit of a chore to unclog them. So, but I was just saying earlier on in the stream, this is a incredibly daunting scheme for me, because I've never painted something this saturated before. So yeah, I'm a little nervous, to be honest, to do something like this. But compared to compared to the World Eaters, the fact that in the space of what, 50 minutes, I've gone from having nothing on to testing some colour options to pretty much having kind of half of this done, to be honest. So I'm pretty pleased. Oh, and table, just for reference, 'cause I'm not sure if you might not have seen earlier on, this is going to be my base scheme for these. So I'm going to do white and turquoise marble, and then I've thrown on 2 variations of gold, and then UV cure resin just to sell the effect. So hopefully when I've got a floor of them done, it will look pretty nice. I'm hoping. Now, is it a good idea to do that base scheme for 1800 points of Emperor's Children? Possibly not. But I think the effort will be worth it. Yeah, this is all very, 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 very new. I am conscious my paint is way too thin, so this may not work out very well. So I certainly didn't think I'd be doing highlights on this stream, but considering how quickly the armour's come together, I'm pleasantly surprised. I'm starting to think that when I highlight the black up, I'm going to have to go green just to offset the pink. And no worries, table. Just to offset the pink a little. But again, work in progress. So, yep, coming together. What I'm probably going to do is I'm not going to push the highlights up here anymore, but what I might do is I might glaze some shadows into these recesses, kind of underneath these cable areas, and then define some of the shadows around the back. I'm going to turn the airbrush off whilst I'm here. So I will probably go with violet red again. For shadow, mix in a bit of the magenta pink. Again, in terms of consistency, because we're talking about a glaze, literally just need something that's pretty thin, like that. It doesn't need to be thick. And just to bring it to define, make it slightly darker because it's not as dark as I think it needs to be. And then I'm just going to run this around the edge just to try and define the recess in the leg line. So once the gold comes in over the top, I think it'll tie it together. No, don't worry, table. Life comes first. Have a good one. Stay safe. So I really need to keep these so shallow. I definitely don't want the recess lines getting too dark. So just define some of the joints between the fingers, around the back of the hand, and then certainly working on creases back here. Yeah, very soft, very soft highlights. In terms of going up onto the edge highlight, probably just going to pick out a couple of the corners. Oh God, I'm struggling to hold this. Struggling to hold this in a way that you can see it and I'm not going to. Again, I don't want to highlight too much up. I just need it to be defined enough that at a glance you can see there's a distinction between the leg plate and where the foot starts, which is fine. I think I could probably get away with knocking it. I'd get away with knocking it down slightly. If I just define that there, so that's fine. Just come over the top. In terms of the foot, I think I'm gonna keep the bases of the soles plain. I think I'm just gonna do them black, but yeah, I'm relatively pleased with how quickly that came out. I could see myself doing a few of these in one go. And the same scenario with a pauldron here. Pick out little areas that are going to be in shadow. Which I think these probably will be. And then these pieces at the top that probably aren't as hard to define, just glaze. Just going to glaze this up slightly. So I think that's pretty nice and subtle. I was just imagining that's going to be sat backwards. Whether this is gold or whether I reinforce it with a white, I'm not sure. But I think when I start doing the rest of it, we'll have a better understanding. So yeah, well, conscious of time for streams. If anyone gets an opportunity, jump over to Table is Painting. Alternatively, have a look at Grave Warden. All very, very good, very informative. And I think Warden's on an American time zone for anyone that's watching this back. Other than that, guys, have a good one. I'll catch up with the next one, see how this one goes, see how it develops, and I'll show you the finished product if I'm not still working on it. But other than that, stay safe, guys. Catch you in the next one.